Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today we have the amazing
Son of Snake.
Live on the show. We're going to be playing his music, finding out who he is. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild one, but we're going to kick it off right about now. Hello, we're doing something a little bit different today. Here in Australia, we have a thing called Welcome to Country, and I would like to do that for you all right now. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Hello and welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing okay out there. It's Friday morning here in Australia, the end of the week for me and Thursday for the rest of you. You still got another day to go. That was, of course, our special guest today, Son of Snake, and that track was Words Hold Power. And indeed, they absolutely do. Thank you, Brad, for skull right off the bat. And thank you all for being here today. Words do have power, and that's why we had at the beginning of the show a welcome to country. If you don't know what a welcome to country is here in Australia, at all events here in Australia, all big events, Grand Prix, football games, even to small events, the MC will always do a welcome to country, which acknowledges the people of that particular land, the first Australians, of course, here. And it is a tradition here. And the people of my land, where I live right now, are the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people of Hume, where I live. But today I just covered the whole of Australia because this is global, isn't it? So we've got a great show ahead. I'm really excited because this artist came across him, I think, through Chad Freeman and Clay's show. But I think it was Chad first. Chad finds all the great music, doesn't he? And it's going to be awesome to chat. So kick back for the next hour and 50 minutes where we listen to some music and get to know a little bit about our guest. And without further ado, let's bring him on. I'll say hello to you all individually. We'll do what we do here. You know what we do on the interviews about half an hour in. We'll say hello to you all and call your names out so you can get ready to type stupid stuff in the chat so I can notice you. All right, without further ado, let's bring him on. He is the Son of Snake. Let's bring on Chris. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. What's up, Jade?
Super pumped. You know, been a fan since I first heard your music. You know, I love a good punk rock artist. There's not enough of them these days. What is it about punk music that gets you fucking excited, Chris?
To me, man, it was community. And before I even knew about my indigenous roots, that was sort of my first tribe. You know, as an outsider growing up, I didn't feel like I fit into a lot of communities. As soon as I discovered punk rock, I felt welcomed and a part. And the aggression. I mean, as a young kid, man, I was an aggressive kid, and it was a good way to get out my frustrations at the shows and go fucking crazy, you know. But now if I did it, I'd hurt my back, I think. So. but it still gets me pumped. It still gets me pumped.
Absolutely. We just get pumped from our chairs now, yeah. But it's true, you know. I was the same with metal, you know. I felt lost as a kid. I just never felt like I fit in. As soon as I fucking heard that first metal song, I was like, what? That cries to me, that sings to me. And then I found out the people who listen to it are all like me. And I talk about it often. It's like I put on a leather jacket and felt like I was a part of this special club and we all gave a shit about each other. You think, like,
absolutely.
Punk has been, same with metal, do you think it's been mischaracterized over the years for being like, you know, I know metal was the devil's music. What about punk?
Yeah, I believe so. Like, shit, I remember all the shows from the 80s and the 70s. They had all the punks were the villains. All the drug dealers and the gangbanger, whatever. And it really, you know, there was a part of it that was that way, but there was a lot of like highly intellectual people, you know, even spiritual and friendly, you know, everybody was sort of unified. And to me, yes, it was very, very much looked at the wrong way. I think there's a lot, and there's so many different communities within the punk scene. You know, there's these, you know, like the goth back then, the goth kids or the death rock kids and the, you know, the hardcore ones, you know, some of the Unity skins and you know, there's like the sort of the mod community that was all grouped together. And within that community, I think there was so much diversity, you know, whether it was the color of your skin, your sexuality, it didn't fucking matter. And that's what I loved, you know, growing up. I always felt just outside of the norm and sort of like a fucking weirdo, you know. And it, you know, when I discovered punk, I realized that everybody was a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but in a good way, you know. There's a lot
No,
of good parts of it that I enjoy, you know, still to this day.
well, they didn't have bodies under the floorboards, so not that kind of way. So, well, who knows? Some of them maybe.
Yeah, yeah. You never know. You never know.
I loved metal because I always knew from as a kid that I was trans. You know, this wasn't something that happened overnight, and it was the perfect place for me to hang out and have this, you know, secret inside of me. But I could have my hair long, and nobody ever questioned it. And for years and years, I had that long hair. And I was just like, yes, man. And surprisingly, you know, when I did eventually come out, I thought I would lose all these friends. And it was the family in that disappeared, but it was the metalheads who went, really? Who cares? You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's the same thing as like a mosh pit. You'd see people go, oh, they look so dangerous. But damn, you know what happens, Chris, when you fall over in a mosh pit? What happens, my friend?
You get picked up
within a second. There's 3, 4, 5 hands reaching out. It is such a supportive network.
Every time.
What does music as a whole mean to you, Chris?
Music to me is a connection with everything and everyone. Just being part of the universe, and I think it's universal. I think there's, you know, if there is, and I'm sure there is life on other planets and other realities, I think that music is probably universal. It seems insane for me to not be that way. So to me, it's a spiritual thing, even I just, you know, found my spirituality in the last 4 or 5 years. It was music was already a spiritual thing of being connected, like the purest art form that's so old, you know. Think of it, you know, the minute that mankind probably picked up 2 bones and clacked them together or something like that. It's probably been here for thousands and thousands of years. So it's just an ancient connection.
Yeah, they clearly picked up bones and rocks first, and they made music before they killed anyone with them.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just the ultimate connectivity. And you could do it, you know, nowadays with technology too. You could just reach out to the world. And to me, that's a beautiful thing, you know, having this outlet and it's the purest art form I could think of.
It's interesting, isn't it, that we live in this world where we need each other to get along, to stay, to survive, to procreate and all that jazz, but we can't seem to get along. But the one thing that is consistent through our time is music, and through major situations of humanity, like through the 70s, Woodstock and stuff, and everybody bugging out their brains on LSD. No matter what it was, there's always been these art and music has got people, like even the Black Plague. You look at the Black Plague, and some of the most beautiful paintings came out of that when everybody was dying. So art is such an integral part of us, but we still just want to cut each other down with comments and stuff. We don't realize how important creativity is.
Absolutely. And like you said, it brings people together. And this world definitely fucking needs that. I mean, look at what's happened in the last 10 years. We've been more separated than I think we've been in my lifetime, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's the one thing that can bring people together, and hopefully it will in some small way, and then trickle effect, go outwards from there.
Yeah, small stones cast huge waves. And it's a good segue into what I want to cover. So I did the Welcome to Country today because here in Australia, at the moment, we are going through we're about to have a referendum in 2023 on should Indigenous people be treated the same as the rest of us in Australia. Now, in my brain, this is lunacy that we are even having to do this. And to see people actually out there fighting against this, saying, no, we shouldn't do this, is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I want to know about your heritage and story because I think these stories are important to be told, and these voices
Yeah.
are need to be heard. So please enlighten me about how your heritage and how you incorporate
Yeah.
that into music too.
Okay. Well, I mean, growing up, I knew that I was of native blood, indigenous blood, First Nations. I didn't know anything about it because, my father, shortly after I was born, he left and moved on to the Pine Ridge Reservation with his aunt and uncle. Um, so I wasn't raised this way. I've been contacted basically by my uncle cousin, and he's my cousin, but he's my elder, so we call him uncle. And he's a blessed pipe and with Chinoopa, sacred pipe, and drum maker. And he just hits me up one day and he goes, where you been? We've been waiting for you. And I kind of didn't really understand what he meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked, but I called him back a couple months later and I said, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, our grandmother had this spiritual gift of foresight and like psychic abilities. And she knew that I would be the one. His native name is Coyote Follows the Road. Follows the Road is his family name. And what they mean by follow the road, there's something called the Red Road, the Chunkaluta. And it's a spiritual way of living. And it really helps a lot of people get clean and sober that
Right.
have sort of a past. Helped me. But she knew that I would be the one to bring the family home. And a lot of the native culture is like when you go home, it means you remember your heritage and your ancestors and sort of start practicing the old ways of spirituality. And she knew that he would be the one to bring everyone together. And there was a lot of people in the family that were raised with no faith and no direction spiritually, and that he would be the one to do it. And he says, grandmother's dreams and prophecies have come true, and a lot of them are still coming true. And this is one of them.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit, And so then I started. He said, start here, learn these songs, learn these words, And he's Lakota from Standing Rock, his family. And I'm not Lakota, but I'm Dakota, Medea Kontawan. And that's the people of the sacred water. And I'm also Turtle Mountain Chippewa. And he's that also from his father's side. His mother is full-blooded Lakota. So he said, learn these songs and these words. And I started, and things changed for me significantly, pretty fast. And I started going into the history of our family. And I've actually dug up some things that I don't think he was even aware of. Apparently, from the Dakota Chippewa side, they were all chiefs and country clan women, or the women who kind of ran it spiritually, and the chiefs, and on both sides of the Chippewa and Dakota side. And so then I started digging it up, and I found out one of my grandmothers her name was Utinawasis, means clear sky woman. And I started finding stuff on YouTube even about her. She's just like this famous woman within the Chippewa community. She lived on the Chippewa reservation, but she was half Dakota, half Chippewa. And she was the spiritual leader of both the Chippewa, the Pembina Chippewa, and the Dakota people who were arch enemies. But because she had both bloods, she somehow got them together to pray. I think it was, I would assume it was because she's watching her family die on both sides.
Yeah.
By the hand of the other family members, So she was probably saying, well, at least we got to pray together in this, in the sweat lodge. And so that's a pretty rare thing. And I started learning more about her. Apparently, she had these spiritual gifts, just like my great grandmother had. and a connection to what they call the Starr people. And, and we all, the things in the sky that are shiny and fly around.
Mm-hmm.
But she had a connection with them, and a lot of the First Nations people and indigenous people throughout the world, even on your land, they all do,
Yeah.
especially the medicine men and women or the
Shaman,
shaman.
shaman of groups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, they have this connection to not only the spirit world but this other realm where these other beings supposedly reside. So that started tripping me out, and I was like, wow, and then so I went back further, and her father was Wapasha, and they were from Minnesota at the time, and they were warring with the Chippewa in that general area. The Chippewa were encroaching on their land from the northeast, coming down, southwest, and he was known as Ate Tonka Wamdushka, which means great father of snakes. And the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota tribes, it's a greater nation. They were given the name by the Chippewa Sioux, which means snakes in the grass. And so they named him Great Father of Snakes within his own tribe to sort of embrace that. And at least that's what I feel. I don't know the exact story, but that's kind of what I'm feeling, is that, okay, yeah, I'm the Great Father of Snakes. Here's all my children, look at this giant group of children. So, and that's sort of where I lent the name from, of Son of Snake. I wanted to embrace that and that part of my culture. And I think it's important to remember the names of these people because they've been forgotten for years. There's so many people in their bloodline that have no idea who they were, where they've come from. And these, they were stripped of their lands and all their powers and their families. I had a grandmother who was taken from her family after they were murdered, and she was made a domestic, which is basically just a slave, house cleaner. And that was on my great grandfather's side because it came from both sides, the native blood. But so I think it's important to remember these people and not forget them, because they were forced to go to what they called Indian schools, which was a way to, they said, kill the Indian to save the man.
Mm.
That was the whole, the slogan behind what was happening with that. And they're still finding bones for these children that were killed in school. They were stripped from their families, taken. They were forced to cut their hair, wear white people's clothes, Europeans people's clothes, not speak their language, or they would get beat. And a lot of them were beat to death. There's it was terrible shit. So the least I can do is, as I'm learning this, to walk the red road, is to embrace them, sing about them, and which I do in a few of my songs so far, and embrace that way of spirituality, spiritual living. To me, it's not, spirituality isn't religion. It's a pure form of just a connection to the universe and to everything around us.
To
everything,
the ground, yeah, everything. The
rocks,
sun,
water,
the sun, the water,
the air,
yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
And since I've done this, it's helped me stay sober, because I had a pretty abusive personality most of my life. I dealt with anger issues and, fits of violence and rage and all kinds of terrible things. But this is, I started calming down because obviously I was getting older, but this really helped me turn a corner on everything. And, it's been 3 years since I've, really drank. I had a drink about 2.5 years ago, and I was like, nope. And I even recently quit smoking pot, and, but I'm not judging anyone that does that.
Of course.
Everyone's got their own path. I'm not a straight edge guy. The straight edge hardcore guys used to piss me off, and that's the last thing I want to do is like preach about what you need to do. because everyone has to find their own path. This is just mine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and you know, that part of my heritage is very important. It all is. You know, I have Celtic blood and Dutch and Greek blood, and it's all important. But I think it's very important for this First Nation family of mine to be remembered, because I can go back in those other bloodlines and find all the history back to the 1300s. Whereas, you know, like on my great grandfather's side, on the Chippewa side, it ends when my grandmother became a domestic because she was named Martha.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And then there's nothing. It's
Yeah.
just like that history's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm just lucky that I do have, from my great grandmother's side and of the chief and country clan woman, I'm lucky that I have that history. I'm just extremely lucky. And you know, it's just I'm just honored to be able to share it. And you know, and to, in the last, you know, 5 years or so, just embrace it and let it be a part of me. My father, I didn't get to learn from him because he died young. He died when I think I was in my 20s, and he had just come back from the reservation. You know, he moved up there during the whole American Indian movement, which was a big deal in the 70s. It was a sort of a radical movement. You know, he was, I believe, part involved with that in some way. He was one of the first people, if not the first person, when ceremony was made legal in the late 70s, to go up onto what they call Devil's Tower, which to us it's Bear Butte or Bear Mountain, and to have ceremony, seeking a vision. He was one of the first, if not the first, in that area of Pine Ridge to do that. So I'm proud of that and what he did there. It would have been nice to learn from him, but it just didn't happen that way. But I feel he's with me in spirit, watching me every step of the way. And he was a musician too, played harmonica and guitar. Wonderful artist, sculpture. You know, he had a roadside stand up there on Pine Ridge, and he sold his, you know, like busts of indigenous, like Crazy Horse and things like this that he made. And so it's a lot to be proud of. You know, like my grandfather was born on the reservation. Both of his parents were born there, and before that, I think they're part of Pembina, so it's a little blurry at that point. But it's just something I'm embracing and proud of.
I think it's brilliant. You know, it just astounds me. Like Australia and the US and many other countries that have had, the British have got a lot to answer for colonization. But I mean, the same. It's a very similar story here in Australia with the Indigenous people here. You know, and it confounds me that in this day and age, we don't look to the past. We're so, as a species now, we're so steeped in this thing like of history, of like, oh, but we've got to hold on to these traditions, but we don't look far enough back to these other traditions, and we write them off as like cavemen or like they're primitive.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but their structures of civilization worked so much better than what we're doing. So,
Yes.
and like as you said, the whole continuation of tribes was through word of mouth and storytelling. And in Australia, Indigenous people go on walkabouts, and they so they'll leave their tribe and go on this mad walk throughout the desert for who knows how long. And these things were important. And you know, you mentioned shaman, and for a lot of the being trans myself, people think that trans people only started like 10 years ago or some shit. If you go back through any indigenous culture, many of the shaman were twin spirit people.
Exactly. Two spirit.
Yep. Yeah, because
exactly.
they had, in these cultures, they believed that because they had the spirit of both, they were able to discern arguments and bring people together. And now these days, trans people are the problem of everyone. We're like we're the doomsayers of the world. So there's so much to learn from this stuff. And, you know, even it was only the 70s here in Australia, Chris, where they stopped taking Aboriginal children from families and putting them into white families here. So they call them the stolen generation here. It was like that's like not long ago. It's fucking disgusting.
That's so recent. It happened everywhere. I mean, colonizers did it. I mean, look back at Rome, and they were doing the same thing to the original white tribes. I mean, all races were indigenous people. It's not just dark-skinned people.
Yep.
You had all from every corner. It just all that, the colonizers did it at different times in history. So it happened to the white tribes a lot longer ago because they were there, on the European continent. It just happened later at like places like here in Australia because it came later.
Yeah.
But it really happened to everyone. It's just further back in the memories and the history.
Yeah.
But it happened to every tribe.
Even Asia too. They went in India. They colonized India. I mean, there was no stone left unturned.
Exactly. It's the part of like we have the medicine wheel, which is it's yellow, white, black, red, which according to legend constitutes the original 4 races, and they're all sacred. They all had a job to do with the earth and protecting the earth. They all had a very specific job to do. So it was all indigenous people, every race. But that was a very, very, very long time ago.
We're going to play a song. Thank you for enlightening us all on that. I think it's really important to be heard. I think these stories need to happen. We're going to play a song. I've brought up E. Urban's comment here. Men were men back in the 1700s, back when kings wore frills. Lest we forget, folks, remember, if you look back throughout history, high heels weren't made for women. Men wore them. Stockings, the whole lot. They're all made for men.
That's true.
And then something happened where everybody went weird and went, oh my God, fucking, I can't wear those clothes. If everyone, it's just cloth, folks. Get over it. Let's play this track. It kind of works really well. This is meant for something else. We'll be back after this track, folks, and we'll get into the music stuff and we'll say hello to you all. Let's do it. Let me make sure I got my shit together. We're all good professional stuff here. This is meant for something else. Boom.
Let me go, I'm not the man you think I am. A far stranger
Awesome, man. Tell us about that song.
That was a song. The content of that is really about how since I'm a caregiver, full-time caregiver for my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, I kind of worked jobs that I had to work and did things I didn't necessarily want to do, just in my whole life in general. Was with people I didn't really feel like there was a true connection with. And in these last few years, I feel like I'm finally fucking liberated from everything. You know, I every job I ever had was standing on concrete, working my fingers to the bone and slicing myself all up and shit, and dealing with a lot of different personalities that I didn't necessarily want to be around. And with doing what I've been doing here, helping my wife with all of her health problems and her really just letting me fly. And it's just, I feel freer than I've ever felt in my life. And even though she has these health problems and it's probably never going to get truly better, I'm really happy. I'm happy really for the first time in my life, and it includes my spirituality. Her letting me embrace all that and helping me, pointing me in the right direction. But one of the lines in that song is, because working at a job you hate because that's what a man does. Fluorescent lights and concrete when you're longing for nature. And that's truly what I always did. I always just wanted to get away from what I was so enclosed with, just like a little box, And I wanted to just be free and fly, And I finally have started to do that now that I'm 50.
It's hey, it's a similar story. Lots of people I've had on here, interested in music from the beginning. Shit gets in the way. You get married, things come around, life. All these things happen that you don't expect, and then all of a sudden you're at between 40 and 50 years old, and here we are sitting on YouTube making probably our best music.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, and then you look at all these young kids making music and think, well, you better make the most of it because we may not have YouTube by the time you get here.
It's good that I have, even when I was in, like, let's say Flesh Gordo, which is, going on 10 years now since I've done that. But that whole group of people that I was, gigging with, and even some of my ex-band members were a lot younger than me even then. And, like there's this band Decent Criminal, who these kids are, I got to hand it to them, man. They're working really fucking hard. They're touring constantly, going to Europe and just everywhere. And so that makes me happy seeing that, because I feel like there was some missed opportunities for me when I was younger. I did get to tour and do all that, but we all had jobs, full-time jobs, and some of us had mortgages and everything else. So to me it's good to see these kids doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's always, I think as we grow old, we're now becoming like, oh, those kids, like just the same thing that older people were saying about us 40 years ago, probably. And
yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm jealous of kids now that they have all the tech that we have now.
Oh shit, yeah, man.
But at the same time, you can only hold on to that jealousy for a very short time because, hey, we have it too now. And we're not dead yet, so relax.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like all this tech that I'm still learning shit. And I just have, the iPad and a cheap little Scarlett 2-channel interface. But I feel blessed that I'm able to do what I'm doing. And there's no one in this. I live in a small coastal Oregon town, about 20,000 people. Not much of a scene at all. There's a couple little sort of, I guess, thrash bands, but they're really kind of young, and but there's not many. It's not many, and it's mostly like blues cover bands, and which is all good, but it's just not my. It's not what I want to play, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just lucky to have this tech that allows me to, you know, do my art still and keep me on track what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to spread a message now, you know. I was always in most of my bands had some pretty shitty messages, to say the least.
I hear you there.
Some of the things I sang about back then were, you know, questionable to say at best. So, you know, I'm trying to make up for that in any way I can. Not like I just have regrets because hey, I got to experience things.
Of course, you can't have regrets.
You know, yeah. But if I have any kind of platform, even if it's small, doesn't matter to me. If I could make people listen to the words a little closer, and sometimes I write songs in a way that I'm speaking of things, and I want people to try to figure it out. Like, what the hell? What the fuck is it?
Don't give it all away.
You know, I kind of want, and there is some of that because there's this supernatural aspect to not only my music but to my life, and so I write about that stuff too.
Let's say hello to folks. Let's say hello to folks. Then I want to find out about early Son of Snake. Hello, so guys, make it easy for me and just type anything, even if it's nonsense, so I don't have to scroll too far. So we got Dom Torogrosa, we got your wonderful wife Ali here, Pookie's here, Development of a Void, Robbie Stingle is here, Andy's here as well, Dan Eckberg is here, Thomas Christ, Ed Zielinski. I saw Brad Example here. I saw Pete Johns at the beginning. King has had to go back to work. Rockin' Pneumonia. Hello, Ed B. Metal. E. Urban, which I've mentioned already. You're already a part of the show. Chad Freeman. We've got Hugh. We've got, I saw Clay as well. Independent Many United. I'm doing my best. I'm scrolling. So let me scroll back down to the bottom. Metalhead Hippie.
Boom, boom, Valerie's here.
Valerie Butt is lurking around. I know Kim Harden Hudson's lurking around. If you're lurking too, that's all right. Lurk. Do your lurking thing. We don't discriminate against lurk. Of course, you wrote nonsense and anything. You weirdos.
Andy is here.
Yeah, said hi to Andy. I'll try and catch you up if I see you and I've missed you. So, but I want to find out now about, so when you were growing up, these are the questions I ask everybody because I find them fascinating. What was the music that was played in your household by family, and did it influence you? Who were some of the artists?
Yeah, so my stepdad was into sort of that whole acid rock movement. So I heard a lot of Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and then, you know, he liked the older stuff like Buddy Holly.
Nice.
Things like that. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Joplin, a little bit of Hendrix, Pink Floyd. Let's see, who else was he into? Steppenwolf. His name's Steph, so I got it mixed up. But and then my mom, she liked the Beatles a lot. Seals and Crofts.
Nice.
Yeah, which I still actually really enjoy.
Yeah, I haven't heard that come up from somebody before. You know, I like hearing something that nobody's said before.
She liked that, and she was friends with some of the local folk musicians, like Kate. I think there was a connection to Kate Wolf. Like she knew somebody that was friends with her or something like that. Kate Wolf was Sonoma County area, Humboldt County, California, like folk musician. So that was that. And then she also liked a lot of dance music from the 70s. So like disco, Donna Summers and, KC and the Sunshine Band, But,
I'm walking on
like
sunshine. My ex-wife, who I hate, she used to sing that at every bloody karaoke show. She even sung it at our wedding. And God, she was awful. Oh, and it's just it's the worst song, Walking on Sunshine, if you can't sing it, if you can't hit the notes, if it's slightly flat, it's bad. And she butchered it for three horrible years of my life with her. And I can't get those back, unfortunately. Do you remember, Chris, the first album that you purchased and the first one that was given to you as a gift?
Okay, wow. The first album that was given to me as a gift, I think, was from my stepdad, and it was Led Zeppelin, the one that had that Moby Dick drum solo on it. I think that I don't know if it was Whole Lot of Love, like it was a live. I think it might have been live.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was, but that was on cassette. It wasn't on vinyl.
Cassette. Do you miss
It
cassette?
was on cassette. A little bit, except for when it ate the fucking thing. Oh,
they're coming back, man. Bands are starting to release demos on cassette again. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, and then remember, if it was one you really liked, you would try to like tape it together and like hope it was flipped up the right side, and or you take the ones you didn't like and you put tape over the holes.
Yes,
and then record over them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the first album given to me, I think, that I can recall.
What about what you purchased with your own money?
Oh man. I'm thinking that was probably Diary of a Madman.
Nice.
I think it was probably that or Screaming for Vengeance. You know, because I told you before, like my first concert ever was Judas Priest on my 10th birthday.
Yeah, well, you told me that off there, so that was going to be my next question, so everybody knows.
Man. Oh, sorry.
No. You've said it now. Judas Priest is your first fucking gig, man.
10 years old, yeah, and my mom drove us to the Reno Convention Center on my 10th birthday, November 17th, 1982, Screaming for Vengeance tour. And then we get there, and my stepsister shortly drops acid. And she goes, "Get the fuck away from me," you know. Luckily I had a friend my age with me, and we just wandered around, and it was general seating, so you could go anywhere. So I remember being right upstage when Judas Priest started, and they opened up with the Hellion, I think it was the Hellion, like the little instrumental before Screaming for Vengeance.
Yeah.
On that album, the first, and they opened up with that little instrumental, and then he starts singing Electric Eye, but you can't see him. And like, where's Rob Halford? Where's he at? I was like, what the fuck, you know? And he was way up in these like rafters, way up on top. It was so cool.
He's so gay.
I love it though.
Same here, man. I remember when I first saw Priest. I first saw images of Priest, and I heard their music first, and then I saw a picture of Rob Halford, and I went, "He's got to be gay." And all my friends were like, "What? You can't say that." I'm like, "Dude, have you seen that leather cap? Come on."
He probably like destroyed like a bunch of macho metalheads' ideas of, you know, everything.
But again, it didn't matter, man. It absolutely didn't matter, because when you can sing like that, dude,
oh, man,
you can put 100 dicks in your mouth. I could give a shit. Fucking.
I was laughing. My wife and I found a picture. It was a promo pic from. I could hear her laughing out there.
Hi, Allie.
But there's a promo pic of Rob Halford from around that time, or maybe it was Hellbent for Leather era, and he's got these two girls like on each shoulder, and they're like kissing on him, and he's kind of like, it's like, how could people not have known, you know?
I love it. I can just imagine some people's worlds would have been shattered. I would have loved to have been. I wish I was a fly on the wall to see that. I love seeing people break down over stupid shit.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
I'm sure they're fine by now, at least hopefully. You know,
well, I hope so. I don't know if you've seen this. There's this game that came. There's this big game. I can't think of what it's called. It's just come out recently, and there's this guy who's made this video who's like, I was just trying to play the game, but it ruined my experience because they asked me what my pronoun was, and this dude melts down over being, and he's like, it's like, dude, it's fucking, you do realize pronouns have been around forever, like it's not something. Oh man, people melt down over the smallest fucking things, man. Yeah, they truly do. Pronouns. He's like, you real worlded me. It's like, yes, Starfield. And the dude has a fucking meltdown. It's like, People are insane. So at school, were you privy to have music at school? Were you forced to learn the recorder?
I was forced to learn the violin, which I'm thankful that I was, because it sort of gave me the, because
it's a hard
there's a lot
instrument
of
to learn.
It is. It very much is. It's not like I was a virtuoso. I played it for a couple years in school, but when I picked up my first instrument was a bass, before I started messing around with guitar, I sort of already had this muscle memory, I guess, because it was only, 3 years later that I started, jamming with my first band, Non-Organized Youth. So I'm glad that I did. At the time I thought it was completely nerdy or whatever. But yeah, I'm a
non-organized
complete nerd at this point. But
non-organized. So where did that?
I love very non-organized.
I love hearing people's first band names because
it was so bad. It was so we had one amp, and it was like a little, like the Fender little reverb amp or whatever, single, I don't know, 10-inch speaker or whatever. And we would run the guitar, the bass, and vocals through that thing. I don't remember how we did it, but it was terrible. Man. And I remember taping we didn't have a mic stand, so we would tape or pin the wire for the cable for the microphone on the ceiling so it would hang in front of your face.
But were you organized enough to get gigs?
No, that band, no. It only lasted about 6 months. Our drummer didn't even have a hi-hat, a snare, or cymbals. It was two toms and a bass drum, this as fast as we could play. We were into DRI, all these super fast buzzsaw bands, and that's what we were attempting to do. But no, we didn't do any gigs. But shortly after, I started a band called Backstab, and we actually played quite a few shows. That was when I was in, I guess I was in 10th grade, and our singer, we didn't have a singer. It was a 3-piece. And this skater kid I knew, Paris Welch, comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I'll get you a show if you let me sing for you." And we're like,
I love these stories.
Okay, and so Paris became the singer,
Excellent.
But we played some pretty good shows. I mean, we opened up for Attitude Adjustment at the time. And,
wow, that's
wicked. And SNFU from Canada, which was still to this day one of my favorite bands.
Yeah,
and like No Effects when they were a hardcore band, punk band.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of local, like Victim's Family was from Santa Rosa, where I was from. I don't know if you ever heard them.
No, I haven't.
Victims,
actually. No.
They're one of the most underappreciated bands, I think, from the era, not just from Santa Rosa, but just they have a style completely unique to their own. They had like a lot of jazz influence, and they would break out in little like country riffs, and they were doing something completely different. 3-piece, but still just such an amazing band. They're on Alternative Tentacle Records, and
right.
Jello Biafra goes up and sings with them sometimes. But I think definitely the best band to ever come out of Santa Rosa, which was my hometown. They were just amazing. They still are amazing. So it was an honor to be able to play with them so many times as a kid, and just even see them. That was always blew my fucking mind.
So you're predominantly a bass player, am I right?
I am, but
was that the first instrument you gravitated to play punk music? Is my question.
Well, yeah, I was a bass player in Backstab and Double Ugly and all these other bands, and back then it was mostly bass. So, I pick up the guitar every once in a while. But as I got older, I became a better bass player, and I kind of pushed myself. And there might have been some substances involved with that too, but let's play it, and so I would come to practice a lot of times, and I would try to write these songs on bass, and it was just like everyone kind of looked at me like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? And so I kind of learned around that. I think I was probably in my late 20s or something, or mid 20s, where I started writing on guitar. I got a little cheapo guitar, and I would write on that predominantly. And now, since I've started doing this, I think I've become a better guitar player, because I'm doing it all myself.
You do when you're by yourself. You definitely do.
So thank you. But I'm not like a virtue. I'm not like some of the guys I've played with before. I'm not like a Void. Let's put it that way.
God, I was watching him last night, and I know he's here in the chat. And God, his fingers look like, when he plays guitar, his fingers look like a face hugger from Alien.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're so spindly.
And that's how I feel like when I play the bass, When I play the bass, I'm kind of like all over the place, but I just, I'm a bass player, I think, at heart. But yeah, I actually really enjoy the guitar, and my band Flesh Gordo, there's a few times I wrote all the music for that and all the lyrics, but I kind of grouped together everybody in my hometown there, people that I thought could pull it off, and I was just a front man for that band. And that was, I really got off on audience interaction. I would sometimes semi-attack the audience and go out there and I enjoyed.
You weren't GG
pushing people around. No, I wasn't rubbing poop on myself. But and it was all fun. I wasn't being truly violent. I was just having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like gentle pushes. It was like, it probably looked a lot worse than it was. I would actually ease off, and so I'm not a small guy, so I didn't want to hurt anybody. But I also enjoyed getting pushed back, And I remember like fat lips and chipped teeth I still have, and because when you have the mic in your face and you get whack, I chip all my front teeth out, but I really enjoyed that. And a few times our guitar player didn't show up, or was sick or whatever, in jail or whatever it was, and I would have to play guitar and sing, and I had no problem with it, because I could, I was the one that wrote it, and so I just, ever since then, I think, and that was probably, I was probably late 30s or something, I've been a lot more comfortable with guitar in the last 10 years or something like that. So
let's play a track, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. You ready, guys? We want to hear some punk rock, don't we? This is Son of Snake. We're going to play Bring It In, and then we'll talk about how that came about. Let's do it.
This is a different one. Yeah, different one.
Let's go, folks. Are you ready to fucking thrash out? I'm ready to thrash out. Let's do it, as Hippie would say.
It's a happy song.
Boom. Boom. I hear a bit of Stones influence in that one.
Yes, very much so. Very. Oh, hi, Kitty. That was okay.
Cat.
Just recent.
We've got
Don't do
cat
it with the
cam.
mic. Come on.
You know what people are like on YouTube, man? If an animal comes on, they go mental. You know, doggo, catto. If Princess was here, she'd lose her mind.
Our dog like goes nuts at any kind of animal on the TV ever. Like just goes shit nuts.
Whatever you watch on
So, yeah.
YouTube, if an animal comes in the background, everybody just loses their shit and goes, hang on a minute, there's an animal, there's a cat. Oh my God. It's like, it's a cat, folks. Like, we've all had one or got one. Anyway, sorry. I cut you off.
No,
there.
no
Sorry,
worries.
mate.
No worries. No worries. No worries. So yeah, that song came about. That was the first song that I recorded. I started messing around with open G tuning on my guitar.
Yep.
And it just sort of, I came up with this riff and I go, fuck, that sounds like the Stones or something. And it just kind of wrote itself, which the songs tend to do that with me. I come up with something and the next thing you know, it's a song. And, you know, I had a retro vibe. So I decided that was when I was still kind of recording direct through my head. And I just used a little bit of overdrive, you know, no heavy distortion or anything like that. I was like, fuck, it sounds just like the Stones. And I just, you know, I wrote it, and as I was writing it, there needs to be more songs about unity, equality, you know, differences in the spice, like differences in all as the spice of life. You know, it's a beautiful thing, not a fucking scary thing.
Yeah.
You know, don't be scared of someone that's different than you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, that's like what this world is supposed to be.
Could you imagine if we're all the same?
Yeah, boring shit.
Fuck, man. There'd be the suicide rate would be out of the roof.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that and, you know, spread a little positivity. Watch out, don't do anything with the mic. You're going after the mic. But I've heard that purring can calm people down. So
oh yeah,
it'll be
I used to go to sleep to a YouTube channel that's 10 hours of purring.
Oh shit!
Can you believe that's a thing?
Oh wow! Well, there's all kinds of weird things.
I know,
like
man.
all the ASMR things are.
Yeah.
And my wife watches a lot of those, and it's like just like crinkling plastic for 5 hours.
Yeah. So speaking of your wife, so I want to talk about this. So you we were talking. You're touring. You're in all these bands. You're playing gigs. You're having a blast. You meet Ali. What's the story? How did you meet Ali? How did you get married? What's the deal? Tell us a story about you two.
Well, she was. Oh boy, I don't know if I want to go into too much detail about.
You tell me what you want, right? You tell me. You know what I'm like.
I mean, people that know us know the story. I could hear it going, "Oh my god!" out there.
Grown, Ali, grown.
Well, I was going through divorce, and I moved in with her and her significant other at the time, who was also my guitar player in Flesh Gordo. And soon after I moved in, I realized that Ali was pretty much being abused constantly.
Oh, fuck.
And yeah, but it was also a complicated situation and looked differently. People looked at it differently because the significant other was a woman. So
right,
people think, oh, you know, it's a cat fight or whatever. But she was getting the shit beat out of her constantly by someone that was pretty dangerous person, really. But you know, I don't. So, and she was kind of in and out of jail. This other one, and we just spent a lot of time together as very close friends at the time and got to know each other. And it just ended up to where we started hanging out, and we ended up together. We ended up together, and that was almost 10 years ago. But soon afterwards, well, she was already having these. Allie was already having these health problems. She didn't know what it was at the time. This was from the moment I met her. She was having these problems all the time, and we were all partying, and she was sort of tapping out early all the time, and whatever. It was just, well, we all kind of noticed it, and the more I got to know her, the more I realized it was a pretty serious thing. So, we ended up together, and she moved in with me at the time when I was living with this other guy, and she was pretty sick. So we had spent few months apart from each other, and the first night kind of hanging out again, and we were pretty much instantly together at that point. She's like, my health stuff's gotten worse. She just wanted to tell me up front, and I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter to me, because I was completely head over and heels with love with her, from the moment we were together, and it didn't matter to me, and so it's been a journey. So we got our own little place together, 6 or 8 months after she moved in, and her health got worse and worse, and it was pretty much right after we got married. I mean, even on our honeymoon, it was bad. Like, it started off with a lot of pain in her back and her whole body, but then, like, on her honeymoon, even, it was like she was getting more sick often, like from different foods, and it was just, we didn't know what it was, and so she was just pretty miserable, and it got worse and worse. And then it got to a point where when we got our own place together, where she had lost, I think, like 70 pounds or something, and she was like under 100 pounds. It was scary. She couldn't eat anything. There was nothing she could eat. um it was basically clear broth at the time. Her body was rejecting everything, and we didn't know what was going to happen at that point. um and I had already kind of, like, Flesh Godo was taking a break because a couple of these guys were doing other projects, like this kind of crusty metal punk stuff, and so it was kind of hard to get everyone together. So the break came at a sort of a perfect time, and her health stuff escalated at that point. And so, yeah, we thought she was possibly going to die at that point, and even her doctors were like, this is pretty serious, scary stuff. And she had no diagnosis at the time. They were like, you have fibromyalgia. It's like, but
It's a bit more than
so,
that.
yeah. So since then, she has been diagnosed. She has something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder, to where your body produces faulty collagen. So all of her and your connective tissue is like, that holds your bones together,
It's
that
the
holds your
glue.
organs,
Yeah.
your eyes, your brain,
Yeah.
everything. Your intestine, everything. So it's kind of, it's basically her insides are like that of like a 70-year-old or 80-year-old.
Tough.
So, but it's tough. It is tough.
Mm.
But since she's gotten diagnosed, she has better treatment now. She gets daily infusions. Two big bags of fluid a day to help her blood volume, because she also has uh, like low blood pressure. So her tachycardia, her heart will go racing as her blood pressure drops. So she has that going on too. So that helps. So she has a port in her chest. And we figured out that her dietary things were all sort of, it was like any animal protein, which is, here I was, a butcher, a meat cutter for a living. And I was like, oh shit. And we're trying to eat like fucking steak every night or some shit.
You're killing her, man.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, we're stopping that. So I became like a vegan butcher, right? Because I wasn't going to eat a fucking ribeye in front of her.
Fuck yeah.
And whatever. So we both we changed everything. And she was, at the time, we were drinking a little bit, not a lot, but we were still drinking a little bit. And she was having issues with that. So she completely quit drinking at that point. And I completely slowed down at that point before I quit completely. But so it was all, there was no way I was going to be able to be gigging at that point. It was a challenge trying to figure out even what was wrong with her, and there's been challenges ever since. She injures very easily just from little things because of her connective tissue. So things that normally wouldn't hurt people will put her in bed for 2 weeks, like from the pain. And then, 3 years ago, which was really when my spirituality took a turn for a more true believer of all these things. She almost died. She literally, like this time, she had a port and it got infected. So the infection went into her lungs and her heart, and she almost passed. But while we didn't know she was dying, but she was actively dying here at the house. And here we are freaked out. We didn't want to, because she's more susceptible to disease, and COVID was really strong at that point. And we didn't want to, she was like, we don't want to catch COVID at the hospital. So we'll wait until she was fucking dying, So she's here at the house. Yeah. So she was here at the house, and strange things started popping off here at the house. Lights, like orbs of light, knocking on the walls, whispers that were from nothing. Things are moving. We were seeing apparitions. And that's linked to her because she has this gift somewhat like my grandmother had. So at the time, we didn't know she was dying. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck my spiritual. I'm ascending. I'm seeing all these ghosts. Oh, man, it's really working. Uncle was right and all this shit, Well, it's because she was dying. And I think her family's going, take her to the fucking hospital, dummy. So that, it's been a journey, and that part's never going to be over. So having spirituality is very important. Otherwise, both of us would probably be shit in the dumps, just why us, why me kind of thing. Where we don't think that way. Everything's for a reason.
Yeah, you can't.
Everything's a lesson.
You can't fall into that hole, can you? I mean, I'm living with something similar, and I used to talk about it more on this channel, but these days I've just stopped because nothing's going to change, man. I'm still having blood transfusions. I'm still bleeding for fucking 3 hours a day. My condition's never going to go away, but you just got to make the best of it. I was saying to you yesterday, I have this blood condition, and I've, for the last 4 days now, been collecting my own blood and putting it in the fridge for a video clip I'm going to shoot. And someone said to me, but won't it clot? I'm like, well, that's my blood condition. I can't clot blood. So I may as well use the blood for something positive because
metal,
fuck yeah. And you've got to find those things, don't you? It's interesting why I asked you about this. Obviously I know Ali's a huge part of your life, and you can hear it in your music. I've been listening to your music, like everybody I have on the show. I reach out to them because I hear something. I know there's a story behind it, and I can hear it in your music. I could hear your spirituality, your heritage, and I can hear and see from you in the chat when Ali's there that there is a strong love. And I kind of knew there was health issues and stuff. But look, I mean, it's interesting. When you get sick too, Chris, people disappear out of your life, I find.
Yes,
because they don't, they want to be there, but they don't want to hear about it. It depresses them, and it's a really weird thing that happens because
completely happens.
Yeah, they
Happened
love
to us,
you.
for sure.
They love you, but they just can't deal with it. And
Can't be around with it. Yeah.
For me, I don't know. For Ali, I don't know how she dealt with it, but for me, I was very angry at first, like you selfish prick, and then you start to come around and go, "Oh, they're a soft cunt, whatever." It's their issue.
She had to go through this whole process for sure. We both did, really, because my friends did the same thing. We were like kind of party people at the time, early on, and it kind of slowly faded away. And as that faded away, so did that group of people. So, and I understand. I don't, at this, like you said, at first you're kind of pissed and hurt, but really I understand. It's a tough thing to deal with when you're not dealing with it yourself so close. It's and some of those people it's probably better that they're not around, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Sometimes
because you could be influenced negatively by certain individuals, and so everything happens for a reason. And part of and I think that a lot of my old friends probably trip on the fact that I'm spiritual now. They probably fucking trip on it.
Fuck them.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I don't hate them. I forgive anything whatever, man. It's all good. It's okay. I'm okay with it. So, it's just part of the journey.
It's fascinating, with when people do that. It's the same as like when you come out, like either gay or trans or whatever. So many people get worried about, oh, if I come out, like I'm going to lose all these people. And as somebody now who I can look back, and when younger people reach out to me, trans people possibly, I always say, I know this is going to be hard to hear, but believe me, the people that are going to like leave you, we're going to leave you regardless on if you came out, because if their friendship was that thin, that's something of you going, this is who I actually really am, being truthful. Trust me, when they're gone, you are going to get 30 more people in your life who have so much more value than that one person that you stressed about, and tried to hang on to. It's
absolutely. It's these things, they're tough at first, but I think in the long run, they're just a blessing.
Totally.
They're a blessing,
Let's play another track and we'll come back and we're going to talk about how, second chances, and all of a sudden you give up touring and all of a sudden, hey, you've got one of these iOS devices in your hand and all of a sudden you're a fucking punk rocker again. Which is awesome. We love it. So let's play. I'm going to play Pain Scale. Let's do that. Let me just cue it up. You want to tell us a bit about it as I cue it up?
This was written about my wife's journey, and the line is 6 out of 10 pain scale. Pain scale is something they use in hospitals and doctors. What's your pain scale at? It's 0 to 10. So most people are down at a 1 or a 2 most of the time. Where Ali's baseline is like a 6. And so a 6 out of 10 on a pain scale is like being in heaven. That's the line. It's like a little slice of heaven. And it was also around the time my mom was going through all of her stuff, what she's still dealing with, where she could have lost her leg and she was in a tremendous amount of pain. So both of those women in my life were going through this really, fucked up shit. And so it was about that part of it, and about people with these conditions feeling like they're not seen. It's a problem.
Yep.
There's a big issue with the medical industry here.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah. So it's it's that. It's about the things I've witnessed, and what Ali has been through trying to be seen. Whereas they thought, at first, because she didn't have a diagnosis, that she was like a drug seeker or something.
Yep.
Yep.
Geez, I'm pretty good at a segue. Who knew the song was about that? Anyway, let's play the song. You ready, guys? Hello to Martha. Hello to anybody I've missed in the chat who's joined while we've been chatting. I know I miss everybody during these interviews. I think I saw Falcro, and if I've missed you. Sorry. Thank you for joining us. But let's play this song. This is Pain Scale by Son of Snake. Let's do it right now. Boom. Fucking awesome. I really love, around this community, we got so many different kinds of music, yeah? So we've got all these shows, Metalhead Hippie and Chad and Pete and Ron Ward and Thomas Christ and Chad Clay, all these people who play, 15th Band, all these people who play fantastic music, yeah? And there's just not enough fucking punk. It's one of the most underrepresented music styles in this whole YouTubersphere. So it's really good that we've got a killer punk artist amongst us. And
I appreciate that.
Well, I had to have you on to represent, because it just feels like there's almost like this rock and then there's metal, and punk's just, it gets left out. Why do you think we're in a place where punk is not as not important as trendy, I guess? Because for a time, punk fucking was a political movement. Mm-hmm. It shaped and changed the way we thought about things. It pushed boundaries.
Well, it seems to come in waves, like think about even like the pre-punk stuff. It just comes in waves and then goes away. It goes back underground. Like think of the Stooges and the MC5 in the late 60s. Then you had the 70s movement, when like Ramones, and then they went to England and got popular in England, and they blew up, and then they came back here and blew up again. And then, so it gets big and shrinks back down, which, some of the best shows I've ever been to were the very small shows.
Always.
Like, in a basement with like 70 people just packed in like sardines, to where once everyone starts moving, everyone has to move, and but it just seems to come in waves. Like there was that, like, let's say when, even though they're not punk, but they're, Nirvana. And that sort of opened the door to all these sort of punk bands and grunge bands and, alternative style bands. So it got really big. I think it's like the record industry realizes there's money there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got to start putting a bunch of it out and signing these bands. But then they lose interest or something. I don't know. And then
they flog it. They flog it. So
yeah,
like everything.
Yeah. And then like when Rancid got popular,
yep,
same kind of a deal, same era, or not same era, but it goes down. It still exists. Like people think that it disappears, but it's actually thriving underground. Like even like in the 2010s or whatever, or late to like 2005 to like 2012 in Santa Rosa, there was a thriving punk scene. It was thriving. There was a ton of bands. They were great. Bunch of people were into it. The shows were packed, but it wasn't, on the radio or on MTV, or I guess nothing's on MTV anymore, but
only reality TV shows.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, it was, the world didn't know about it, but if you were part of that group or that dynamic, it was going nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just does that, and that's, I think, kind of why it started in the first place. At the time, you had, I don't know, Foghat or Peter Frampton, or like these stadium bands, packing stadiums, with, 10-minute solos, and these punk bands got, or the people that were started the punk bands got tired of that. That it was, to them, it was just kind of getting old, and they wanted to strip it down, and that's how like those first bands, it was stripped down. It was just, 4 chords and a lot of downstrokes, and no solos, but that evolves too, then you go into the mid 80s and you have bands like RKL, who just, they were part of the punk scene. I don't know if you'd call them a punk band, but they were back then. And that was Rich Kids on LSD. That's the name of them. But they completely changed the game. They made it okay to be a punk band that was technical. And they had one of the most shredinest drummers, Bomber, and he wrote all the stuff. He played bass on their best album, Rock and Roll Nightmare. That album completely changed the game. So, and no one even knows who they are. And it's like, it opened it all up. It's like, oh man, I could learn how to really play, and it was like, the riffage was just, it was crazy and killer. And like, I remember going to I was in 10th grade when that came out, and the album came with a comic book, and the comic book was all the lyrics. And they had a character named Beanie, who I have tattooed right here.
Wicked.
And he had a melting, it was, their name was Rich Kids on LSD. So everything was like always melting.
Yeah.
But, he was the character through the comic book, and each like page was a song. And that was like, man, in high school, it was like in my folder constantly.
Everything.
Like,
yeah.
I'm supposed to be like, I'm doing lessons, and I'm just like, religiously like reading these lyrics and going, oh man. So if, anyone that likes the style of music, and even people that don't, people that are into metal, truly appreciated RKL, check out Rock and Roll Nightmare. The album it stands up still. I mean, the recording quality is not like really, really, really great.
That
but
never matters. It's punk.
It stands up, and like half that band, just like a lot of the crew in the group are gone. They passed, but they still I mean, changed my life and everyone I know that was part of that punk scene. It changed them, completely changed them. That one album,
It's
Rock and
fun.
Roll Nightmare. Check it.
It's funny how punk and metal is so tribal, and by saying that, how like every other style of music is, or maybe this is jazz and stuff, people, they test you to make sure, are you really punk? Do
Mm-hmm.
you know this band? And that, right? And when we were
Mm-hmm.
chatting yesterday, I was blown the fuck away that you named some Aussie fucking punk bands like Vicious Circle that you fucking knew who
Yeah.
they were. And that
Yeah. Yeah.
that blew me the fuck away because I know Cold Acres here in the chat. He knows I'm sure he knows who Vicious Circle
Well,
are.
well, we had, another part of my journey of learning about punk rock. I have to give it to my friend who is no longer here, Eric Scott, my oldest and dearest friend. But he got, I was in class one day, and I think eighth or ninth grade, and I'm listening to Slayer, and he goes, "You like Slayer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You need to check this out," and he gives me a tape, and it's like Neurosis first album, I
Yeah.
think, or maybe Christ on Parade, and Crumb Suckers from New York.
Fuck yeah.
So he got me into that, and he introduced me to this radio show named Maximum Rock and Roll. It was also a fanzine from Berkeley. It's the same people that first opened Gilman Street Warehouse, which is still going to this day. Opened in, I think, 1987. 924 Gilman. It's basically like CBGB's West. And so I was part of that whole, when that opened up, I got to see all these amazing bands play that venue, but Maximum Rock and Roll Radio is how I was introduced to all the Australian bands and the Italian bands, the Gazioni, and all these Sperm Birds from Germany. There was also Manson Youth from Germany. So I was lucky to once a week tune in to Maximum Rock and Roll Radio, and they would play 2 hours of just stuff you've never heard, and all different sort of styles of punk rock, and also from different eras. So it really got me looking. And back then there was no internet, so you had to go to like San Francisco Record Vault or
Tape trade.
Or Tape Trade.
Yeah.
We had a Last Record Store in Santa Rosa. You had to go buy these albums because of one song you heard. And a lot of times you end up selling the album back because it was like that's the only good song on that album. Shit. But you discovered a lot of good bands that way.
Let's talk about now. So you rediscover making music, and here you are. I'm so glad you use iOS to make music because we live in the future. And you start making music. Someone tells you about an iPad. You get on an iPad. What happens?
Yeah. So, I've always kind of written, even when I wasn't in bands, but I would just record it on my phone and video, whatever, to try to remember it or whatever. And then someone told me about, I think it was BandLab, and I
Yep.
got that app first, and I did probably about 30 songs on there in a couple months. And I was like, man, this is kind of shitty, And so then my buddy goes, dude, you need to get on GarageBand. And so I got the iPad that I'm using right now. I think it was about maybe 6 months ago, something like that. I don't know the exact timeline, but I got it and I uploaded GarageBand, and I was like, oh shit, this is way better, because the drums are just really bad on BandLab unless you're doing like electronic music, I think. But so it was a huge step up, and I could kind of dial in. At first, the first handful of things I did, I didn't really dial it in too much. I just kind of had a straight beat, but then I realized that I could go in and actually accent everything. And I started chopping it all up, and because I like drummers to go off. So I started doing that, and I think I did probably, let's say, 70 or 80 songs
Wow.
on GarageBand. Um, my goal was when I started in last June, by the next June to have 100 songs, and I think I was at like 130 in that year, and now I'm over 150 now. But
Jesus.
but I just it just flows out of me. It always has. It always has. It used to piss off my bandmates because as soon as they would learn a song, I'd want to learn some new shit. And like, shit, we don't even know how to play the fucking shit. We just, started playing. I just, my mind is always, it just, I'm born to write songs, And so, yeah, I about a month or two ago, I think about a month and a half, I finally uploaded Logic Pro, and now it's even better. So, and I haven't released, let's see, have I released any of those? I did a Tales of Terror cover a week or two ago called 13. Um, that was one of the first things I recorded on Logic. And I think I did another, yeah. So I have a couple on YouTube that I did on Logic, but now they're getting better. I'm getting used to it. Um, and I love to have this at, people go to bed at night here and I'm sitting here tinkering around, writing things, and it's just awesome, man.
It really is.
And
I mean,
I don't have to disturb anybody either. I can do it quiet if I want.
yeah, yeah. It really is amazing. Like I've said many times, I grew up as a youngster paying for studios, having to save up money and going in and
Yeah.
get engineers and doing all that stuff. And to sit down now and just pick up a slab of glass that's like micro thin and just be tapping it away with a set of headphones on. How have you found the move? Because a lot of people are negative about GarageBand. I see a lot of people go, no, but it's just a toy. You can't make quality music with it, which I always just shut the fuck up.
That's not true. I think it just, it's all about the songwriting and your performance. You could dial it in to make it sound almost more live. I don't make everything redline, but I tend to get it right on the edge where it's getting ready to redline, so it sounds a little more live. And you could dial it all in, man. I think it's an excellent tool to have. And if you're poo-pooing on it and not making music, I don't understand that. Just if anything could keep you creating, especially if you don't have, like me, I live in a small town where I don't know that I'll ever find people here to play this kind of music. I don't know. Maybe I will. But then I also have to think about, are they on the same level as me? Like I don't want to have a bunch of drugs and shit around me, But I just think that it's amazing to be able to, it's just wow. If we had this when we were kids,
Yeah.
I mean, oh fuck, man, we used to spend thousands of dollars for 4 shitty songs.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? I remember, like, I was in this band Double Ugly, and we had to go to this killer guy. I mean, he did great work, but he was Aaron Johnson. He was the studio drummer for that Tommy Two-Tone 8675309.
Oh, right.
Was that
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, right.
So he was collecting royalties, and it allowed him to build this killer studio. But it was like, at the time, it was a lot of money for us. We were a bunch of 17-year-old kids or whatever, 18, 19. And we did 4 songs, and it cost us a bunch of money, and it was cool to be able to do it, it was an experience. But man, I mean, you could do 4 songs in one night for free now, yourself. And it's like you kind of, it's like you get to learn. To me, it was exciting because I get to learn something new. At this point, this stage of the game, I get to learn how to record myself. And I had to, it starts off really shitty sounding, and it gets gradually better and better and better the more I learn. So to me, it's just great, man. I don't, if you're not playing and creating, I mean, and you feel like you're missing something, get a fucking iPad, man.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
an
and
iPad.
the people who poo-poo it. I mean, when I was in America, I was, I've been working on this album on an iPad, and my friends would introduce me to their other band friends and go, "This is Jade from Australia. Jade's making an album on an iPad." And there were so many times people like looked at me and went,
Like what?
like, no, not even like that. Really? Like,
Yeah.
I think, cool.
Like
All
they
right.
thought you were making like all techno music or
Yeah,
something like
some
that.
crap,
because
and
it's on
I'd
an iPad.
go, "Can I hear your music?" And they'd give me a CD, and I'd listen to it when I get home and go, "Fuck,
Ugh.
they recorded this in a studio,"
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
somehow my stuff would get in their hands, and they next time they'd see me, they go, "Oh, fuck, we heard what you're doing on it. That was
Yeah.
on an iPad." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not fucking what you record on; it's the intent. It's what you put into
Exactly.
it. It's the ability to shut off limitations in your mind, because you
Yep.
only limit yourself by the
Hmm.
limitations you set on yourself and the gear
Yeah.
you
Totally.
use. It's
Totally.
it's an odd situation. But so now you're moving to Logic. Well, how have you been going with the move from GarageBand to Logic? Have you been
You know,
overwhelmed?
I was a little intimidated with it at first. Just the idea of it. I tend to do that though. I kind of, I'm like, oh, that's something different. Oh, okay. But I've learned that it's better to just dive in head first if you're going to do that. So it was actually easier than I thought it would be. And I think I don't, they're different programs, but I think just doing it and as many songs as I did on GarageBand, I kind of got the general idea of, how to mix and this and that. And so it was easier than I thought it would be. It was easier than I thought it'd be. Really, it was.
Yeah. I think again, if you go into it with that mindset of this is going to be too hard, like I see it a lot from people who
Mm-hmm.
maybe watch the show,
Yeah,
they say things in the chat like, "I don't think I can do that." It's like, no,
yeah. You need to just
just
go do
change
it.
your
Just do
language
it.
and say, "I'd like to give
Yeah,
that a try." Like everything's about changing your language and the way your mindset is. Like,
absolutely.
you tell somebody you can't forever, and they will sit there and believe it and go, "I can't do that."
I can't do it,
Yeah,
and they never do.
yeah. And as soon as you start telling yourself, "I think I can do that," yeah, why not? You open yourself up to actually being able to do it. You allow
Yeah,
yourself to do it. The mind's an incredibly
exactly.
powerful thing. So
Yep,
you're making all
totally.
this cool music. Yeah, let me bring it up here. So you've got releases out now here on. There we go. So you've got stuff out on iTunes and
Hmm.
Spotify. And how's that? Has that been exciting releasing music? Do you get the buzz? Like I still get a buzz even though nobody
Yeah, I
listens to my
do.
music.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's exciting, just having something out there that's available to everybody is a cool deal. And and it's, I got a friend that's in Colorado. He runs a little label out there, Anonymous Music Collective, Glenn and Vinny. Those guys have helped me out too along the way. I just released that 3-song Imaginary Enemies through them. So I have that too. I've got that little sort of connection there. Um, so it's fun, man.
Yeah.
I'm just having a good time with it, and even though I am trying to put a deep and meaningful message out there, ultimately I'm having fun too. I'm having fun. I like to joke and have fun, and if I'm just all serious all the time, it would be boring. So, but yeah, having it out there for everybody it's cool. You can just upload it, and I'm on Bandcamp too, and then I've got Halloween. I'm releasing 18-song album,
Man, that's
Songs of Snake, and that'll be my second full length. And then probably around the holidays, or right around the turn of the new year, I'll be releasing my third full length 18-song album, Year of the Spheres. And that's going to be released, I believe, through Anonymous Music Collective out of Colorado.
nice.
Yeah. And then I have one after that's done, 18 or 20 songs that I'll probably do maybe in early spring. And I don't have a title for that one yet. And that one will be all recorded on Logic. Whereas Year of the Spheres, I started out on GarageBand, but I've been converting all the drums into Logic on that one, just because I like the tone is way better.
Yep.
And then, but everything on the following one in spring it's all Logic, and that's already done. I just, nothing's mixed or anything, but it's all done.
I love releasing music on Apple and Spotify just for the mere reason that I can go, my music's right next to Rihanna.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yep.
In my mind, I'm a star. And that's all all that matters.
I still talk to people that they're like, oh, wait, you're on iTunes?
Yeah, it's cool.
Like, yeah, I mean, but even like my old band Snag is on there too. It's been on there forever, but no one ever buys it. So
it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
I get the little emails through saying nobody listened to your music this week, and I just go, I don't give a fuck, man. I can turn around to anybody and just go, yeah, I'm on iTunes, whatever. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like anyone can get on iTunes. So relax. So you find YouTube. How did you get into this YouTuber sphere of artists? How did you find all of us and stuff?
Well, Chad found me basically.
Chad, it's your fault, Chad.
Yeah. I was, I didn't know that there was even a community like this. I really didn't. I'm just green to it all, and I had, I think, put a few songs on, even the early stuff. And I think I just switched to GarageBand, and I made that goal to do 100 songs. But I was like, who's ever going to listen? I have like 6 followers on YouTube. And I'm like, even my old friends don't want to follow me. So I'm like, whatever. But so I'm like, I'm still going to do it because I need to do this. I need to do this. And I think I probably at that time had, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 songs on there. And Chad hit me up. I think he friended me on Facebook through the Headphones and Microphones group, added me on there, and shortly after hit me up and says, hey, I got this guy I know that's does conspiracy music, and he come, if you show up, he'll play your stuff. There's usually about, anywhere from, like you said, 20 to 40 people or whatever in there, and sometimes more. And I'm like, okay, so, and I didn't know, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. I hung out and I got played on there, and I was like pretty stoked. I was like, oh shit, if people were liking it, which, was cool because it's not a punk community, but they were just appreciating the music and the songwriting, I guess. And
I think it's an everything community. I think that's the amazing thing. People who don't even like that style. I mean, I've released FMC grindcore tracks and had Joe and Barry Glenn, who are trad folk, writing lyrics like "punch a bag of shit." And when you see that happening, you're in a wild community. Hetriani, hello to Hetriani. He says, "In my mind, you're a star too." Oh, thanks, Hetriani.
You are to me too.
I should have done this. I should have gone. I should have done our 15th bend. I'd like to welcome everybody, the big boss, Hetriani. I can't help it. Let's talk about gear, and then we'll get the hell out of here for the day, because I know the gear heads are just like gagging. They're throating to find out what fucking guitars do you use, what amps, what's going on. Tell us about that stuff.
Okay, well, my guitar that I'm using right now, I have it right here. I'll show it to you. I love this thing. It's a Pure Salem El Brujo.
Ooh, sexy. Look at that. Are you drooling, folks?
Yeah, it's got P90s.
Damn.
It's really I love this thing, man. It just plays so nice, and it has those P90s. They make those P90s themselves, and widen themselves, and they just have such a particular tone that I just love.
That's a sexy guitar.
I love that guitar, man. Before that, on my earlier stuff, I had just a cheap Ibanez semi-hollow. cheapo $300 guitar.
Hey man, it's
This-
funny with cheapos these days. Cheapos when we were young, Chris,
yes,
were fucked. They were
shit.
Onyx
shit.
guitars, Samics back
Yeah.
in the day when they were
Yep.
fucking dirt. These days, a
Yeah.
cheap guitar, you take it
Yes.
to a luthier and they spend an hour on it, and I swear to God, it's worth $1,000.
No, I totally agree. Like I actually liked the tone I was getting from that semi hollow. Because I do like a lot of sort of rock and rolly. Even though I'm I was always part of the punk community. I always really liked some of those Northern European bands like Turbo Negro and Helicopters that were really sort of doing revamped American style rock and roll. But I just love that stuff, man. It's some of my favorite. Turbo Negro, with the first singer was just, to me, I just love that shit, man. So I have that influence, and you could hear it in a lot of, I think, my songs. But I love that tone. And this card gives me a really good tone. My bass, I use a Fender American P bass, rosewood neck. I was telling you before, I used to have a jazz bass that got ripped off when I was in California, and it had a maple neck, which I was always into back then. But now I just like the deeper, richer tone that a rosewood neck gives you. That one behind me is just a cheap P bass.
Yep.
Back there. But I've got my nice one. Thank goodness for Afterpay. That's all I gotta say.
Oh man, my entire studio,
Man.
everything I own is I think I have $500 on Afterpay at the moment
Yeah.
for all my costumes and dumb shit
Yeah.
for this video clip. Afterpay is my life.
Afterpay is what got me this, because I couldn't drop 1,000 or 1,500, in one spot. So, and I have shit credit. So with Afterpay, doesn't really matter. So,
I don't think
this
I've
one's all
missed one
paid for,
payment.
but
I've been using Afterpay
Me
for
neither.
3.5 years, never missed a payment. And I think
Yep.
my it's ridiculous now. I think I've got like credit up to like $6,000. That's
Wow.
crazy that you can
That's
just
cool.
buy something for $6,000
Yeah.
and pay it off over 8
So-
weeks. It's sick.
I when I was younger, like because I used to own a home and stuff, and I maxed out all my credit cards and did all that shit, and those things are trouble, man. Those things are trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is like, I needed something better than what I was using. In my own mind, I did, and it allowed me to do it. This one's paid off, the guitar, still paying off the bass. And then I still have my Ampeg SVT3 Pro head that I used, even all going back to, I think I got it when I was in Snag. So going on 20 years, Snag was a pretty, popular Santa Rosa band. We did it for like 10 years, played hundreds of shows. We were on a little label out of Florida and everything. But so I have this thing is worn. It's got stickers all over it. And so I have that.
Is this
What's that?
Snag here?
There's another band that
Yeah.
called themselves Snag
All right, there's
afterward.
two. There's two here. There's this one.
If you look for Back for the Gravy, right there,
There it
with
is.
the red writing,
All right.
and the one in Valley of the Moon.
Yeah. Let me download
Yeah.
these. Let me snag these right now.
Yeah, so that was the band that I was in for quite a while, and we played a bunch of shows, and we had a lot of fun with it. But that was our kind of, at least my crazier days for sure. But yeah,
2013, 2009.
yeah,
I love
and
it. Look at that old school cover, man. That is so fucking old school punk.
Joe Leonard, we had who did a lot of my tattoos. We did trade for him, so we printed like posters for him, because he would go to these art showings in Japan and stuff. So we'd print for him, and then he did our artwork. So I think he did 3 of our album covers, 2 of them that are on there. And I think we did probably 6 or 8 albums. But those are the only 2 I think available.
Right.
But yeah, that was fun, man. And I'm still really good friends with Justin, our drummer, and he's still down there at the same shop. He owns a screen printing shop. That's what I did for years. We had our studio right there, and a lot of debauchery back then. But So yeah, I've got the Ampeg head, and then I did invest in a half stack, cab with Celestians in it. And then I just got this cheap, I love Marshalls. I absolutely love Marshalls and Mesa Boogies and everything like that. But you know, I'm like, am I really gonna play gigs as a guitar player? I don't know. And even if I do, is it really gonna matter too much, the style of music? And I read good things about this Boss Katana 2, and I've actually liked it. Most of that stuff that's on YouTube going, like the newer stuff, is all run direct through there, and it has a good clean channel. It's got some good stuff. It actually sounds pretty close to a tube amp when you play it live. So I've actually enjoyed that, and it's cheap as shit, man. I got the thing for like $300 for a 100-watt head.
We like that.
Yeah, so I would love to have this fancy setup. I just can't afford it.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
I'm not a meat cutter anymore.
It goes to waste. You don't need it. It's
Yeah.
what it is. All right, I've got 2 more questions because I've got a new question that I'm going to ask people at the end of each show, as well as the normal one. So, if you were stuck on a desert island, you could only take one album with you. What is it?
Oh shit. Oh man, that's a tough one.
Come on, TikTok.
Well, I think it would probably have to be Rock and Roll Nightmare, RKL.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you have it.
I think
folks.
it would have to be that. I mean, it's just stuck with me. I think it was released in '87, and it's still just a mind-blowing album.
Awesome. I'm not going to tell you what mine is. It's a secret. All right, last question that we hit everybody with. Is Ali leaving right now? I see everybody saying goodbye to her, but she's still here.
She might be pooping out.
Sure.
We were just at the pain clinic yesterday. She had a rough day.
If you are going, Ali, much love. Thanks for being here and allowing us to know your story as well too. Because it's important. Because she's still here. She's still here. All right. So the final question I'm going to hit you with before we go out and play one more song is, of course, if you were going to give advice to somebody starting out making music, when would be the best time for them to start?
Whenever they feel they want to do it. I mean, obviously, it's better to start as a kid, as far as, that learning curve, but I don't think there's a limitation to it, man. I mean, there's people that have just learned in their 30s, and within a year they're fucking badass.
Yeah.
I think 15th Bend is something similar like that. Didn't I hear someone tell me that he just started playing not too long ago? So it's never too late, man.
Absolutely.
So there's no answer. To me, it's whenever if you feel the love for it and you feel you need to put your creations out there, which I think that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to create something here, whether it's whatever it is, doesn't matter. Even if it means it's a good meal for your family every day, or whatever, a painting, or just, building a house, or just something, crochet, or whatever it is. We're supposed to be creating. That's that we're supposed to be doing it. Like, we come from creation, and we're supposed to create. We're supposed to do it, man.
Yep. Sing it like you mean it. Leave it all on the floor. Do it. Get it out there and have a good time doing it. If it's stressing you out, go do something else and come back to it.
Yep. Totally.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here in the chat, Ali, and everybody in the chat today who've hung out and supported and stayed on here with the show. You all rock. I want to thank you, Chris, for coming on the show and being so candid. It really,
thank you for having me.
It's an honor when I have people come on and trust me so much to be so candid. And thank you for providing such great music and being a part of this community. Folks, if you need, and you do need, you will do it right now. Now you will go over to the description and you will go and subscribe to Son of Snake and go download his music, go buy something from Bandcamp, support the artists that make up this community. Links are in the description as always. You know what I mean? In answer to you, Cold Acre, it's the second Mr. Bungle album, of course, Disco Volante, not the first one. But that is that. We got some cool stuff coming up this weekend on the channel. If you want to hang out here, I'm doing an opening hour this week, and I am singing 90s alternative covers. So if you want to get your grunge on this week, we're going to be doing a bit of fucking grunge, man. And also, I don't have the thumbnail yet, but this week's rant is about authenticity. Yeah? So come and join me for an hour of fucking spewing shit about authenticity because we need more of it, yeah? All right, we are going to get out of here today. And we're going to play this track. We didn't get through all the tracks today, but, you know, that's up to you to go and find more on Son of Snake. This is Bags of Bone and Flesh. Tell us about this. You dropped it yesterday.
This is about my spiritual belief is that we are not just meat sacks. So many people are trapped in the physical. I think that can drag you down, man. It's like, we realize that we are all just, and people are scared of ghosts and all this shit. That's all we are is fucking ghosts in a bag of bones and flesh. We all become spirit. We are spirit. And it's just my belief in this. And it's true. It's truly what I believe. And it's not just because I was raised a certain way. It's also because of things I've witnessed with my own eyes, with my family. So it's real, y'all.
I'm going to close this show the same way I opened the show with a welcome to country. I want to thank and acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and, in fact, the world, because this is a worldwide show, for their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Indigenous people around the world, today and forevermore. Thank you so much. This is Son of Snake, Bag of Bone and Flesh. Remember, folks, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better, and we'll all rise together. I'll see you on the weekend. Please stay on the line with me, Chris, so I can say goodbye to you. Let's do it right now.
we'll all rise together. 'Cause you make me shine better, and we'll all rise together.